not where you think you are. This is an introduction for the Labyrinth Readers course, which is a 12-week long course specifically to assist those who are working with the deceased, those in transition, hospice, caregivers, gatekeepers, healers, whoever you may be. The skills of this course are meant to help you connect with those who are in transition or wherever they may be. And this could be someone simply who's going through addiction, withdrawals, who may be in a coma, who might be in depression. All of these are states that put us out of the normal working state. And this is an opportunity for those of us who may have skills to reach them and to deliver some kind of just information. I can't read that far.
Maria,
hi Maria, welcome. So I'm giving a quick introduction for those of you who may not be part of the course already. This will be going out on YouTube today. In the future, it will be, if you enroll in the course, it will be part of a Zoom chat so that we can all ask questions live and be more intimate and part of the group. So welcome to the world of group teleconferencing. So I'm giving a quick description here of the course. This tonight is just an introduction. There's certain information that you will need to know and receive and have heard before you actually come to the first course. The four of you who are already enrolled in the course are received, I thought, some of this information when you met before, but we are going to be sending out some more specific information after today, once I get it clarified. So, this today is a free introduction class to the 12-week course on the Labyrinth reading, which is going to start in January of 2020. And this is also probably the first line of training for consciousness training for those of you who are on a shamanic path or working with consciousness training. The idea is to learn how to set an intent and how to place our attention there and hold it for a prolonged period of time. And if you can imagine, if we're trying to connect with someone who is in transition, that there needs to be the utmost care on our part to create the right environment, both for ourselves and for those that are the deceased that we're working with, by learning how to create the right space and hold our attention while we're doing the work. So this training is very specific, and I've had an opportunity to go through the course several times myself and have been working with the ABD for quite some time. And going over the materials again, I can see the genius of the work that was placed into the creation of the course to very specifically invoke certain types of outcome in our perception and how we're able then to work with others. So with that in mind, the introduction today is going to go through some of the spaces that we will use in the format that we're going to be using when we go through the course. And it should give you a pretty good idea that it's an environment or the type of training that will be conducive for you and the kind of work that you do. So at this point, I just want to, for the online audience who's starting to decide whether you're going to stay on with us today or not, again, this is an introduction for a 12-week course. The 12-week course is a fee of $125, which is paid directly to the Labyrinth Readers Society, and I will have e-links and all that for you if you contact us. Just really quickly, our contact information is goldeneaglediscourses@gmail.com. And this today is course's YouTube channel.
We have 3 people watching, only one of which has signed in. And just let people know, I guess they're hearing it, is I'll be putting that email in the chat.
Okay, so if you are online today and you can see the chat, there will be contact information there to get in touch with us to get all the resource materials that we're talking about today in the introduction and information on how to register for the course. So the 125 is basically for the support materials, and they will be given in an e-format. That said, some of the formatting is being revised. We are actually a beta test site for this course, so you'll bear with us as we work through some of the logistics of getting this information updated. I think the copy of the resource material that I had up until now was from 1998, and we're now up to 2015. But the formatting didn't work quite right for my computer, and so before I send things on to you, we'll want to check everything to make sure it's working correctly. So as soon as you contact us, we can get you signed up for that. You do want to, and I'll go over this again several times, but you want to make sure that you have actually read the course description and to make the payment then to the Institute, and we'll give you information on that. So the first course, I believe, is scheduled on the 10th of January. I have it somewhere here. January 11th. And the classes will be on a Sunday afternoon. Most of the course work should be able to be covered in less than 3 hours, but we're going to schedule 3 hours, which means that we'll probably start at 2 o'clock in the future. It'll be 2 to 5, which will allow you, to make plans in the evening on those days. And once we start, we will attempt to be meeting weekly for 12 weeks straight. So that is kind of intense training, and it will be not broadcast, but it will be videotaped, so that if you do have to actually miss a broadcast, or if there is technological interference, storms, blizzards, whatever it may be, that you can watch the previous course, do the exercises, do the homework, and before you come to the next class. So whenever possible, you don't want to get too far behind on things, but there should be plenty of time to get those things done on a weekly basis. It's really more like diary keeping, journals, just kind of checking some boxes, making sure that you've actually checked in on certain things. We'll go into that on more detail. So from 2 to 5, beginning January 11th on Sunday afternoons is when we'll be meeting. And we do go through the coursework consecutively, and it does build on itself. And we are only given the assignments 1 week ahead of time, because we don't want to be working ahead. There's some very specific processes that the consciousness goes through as we develop this training. So let me stop there and see, first of all, who's online with us?
Who's online? Is a good question. We have Maria Velati, which we previously announced. There are 2 other people, both of whom are not identifying themselves. They haven't logged in. I've prompted a couple times. So these may be people who are just checking this out, seeing what the course is going to be like. I don't see Wahid logging in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my phone, keep it here in case she decides to text.
Okay. For all those watching online, we are broadcasting from live in Mount Shasta, California. So if you are local and you are going to be interested in taking the course, contact us and we can show you where we're at. That said, we do have the potential for all sorts of weather and other, interruptions, especially here in California with our rolling blackouts and all. So because this course is somewhat based off of technology, we're hoping to bugs worked out before we start in January. And it is then set up so that if you get cut off in the middle of a broadcast, you can contact us and we can send you a new link, if there's broadcasting issues. Gives you the material, make sure you have what you need so that you're ready to move along with class. Okay, any questions from anyone? Just keep rolling on then. All right, so in this space here that we're working this is our dining room, and we are going to use this as a particular type of meeting space. And then we will go into another space. So if you are going to be following along with us today or in the future, let's say you only have a one-bedroom apartment that you're, or not even a bedroom, but a studio apartment where you can't really go to a different space. The idea is that we're creating spaces that will do specific type of work in. And so even if it means walking out of your bedroom and walking back in, you're coming into a new space. So if you think about our actual training space as being a temple-like space where you want to have it clean, organized, not a bunch of clutter, the minimal amount of light. And the reason is that we are trying to get into a sacred space. We're trying to connect the deceased. And to do that, we need to create the least amount of distractions as possible. Today, we have our key cats running loose in the house. In the future, it may be advisable to have your animals locked away if it's possible. If they're well behaved and you can work with them, that's great. But you're trying to hold a meditative state for longer periods of time. So when we're here in this space, in the dining room space, is the time for asking questions, writing down notes, and getting a drink or something like that. You're welcome to take water into the training space, but we want to eliminate eating or any other type of distractions during the training periods. So there's going to be a packet of student information. So if you're interested in continuing with this course, that's one of the things that you'll be receiving is a student packet information, which will have the course description and it will have also specific handouts that you need to get started. And once we get started, then weekly you will be receiving the assignment. At the end of one session, you'll receive the assignment for the next time. And so as you collect these, they can go into a binder that will eventually create the entire manual. But the manual is not given ahead of time. So there's, like I said, this is a 12-week course. We're also going to be working with doing a complete reading. Now, for those of you who are not sure what we're talking about when we're talking about the Labyrinth reading, we're talking about a translation interpretation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead by E.J. Gold called the American Book of the Dead. And the languaging in this book is such that the average Westerner will better understand the references here than the Tibetan pantheon of gods and different symbolism that we may not be familiar with. So it's an excellent book, and it has its complete training in and of itself. So if you have or purchase the book, and I do have copies available, and they can be ordered through the Institute as well, reading this book cover to cover several times is really helpful. But just know that the first portion of the book is talking about why it's important, what it's really about, and how to be with those who are in transition. So it's a lot of good instruction for those who consider themselves a gatekeeper, who feel like they've been called to work with those who are in transition, especially hospice workers and so forth. The whole remainder of the book are a series of readings that are done over a 52, 53-day period, but there's 49 chambers after the person has passed on that they are transitioning through. And these are color coded, there's different symbolism that we get from the Tibetan translations. But it's basically a vibration that they're going through. When they first pass is their excellent opportunity to pass on to whatever their religious belief may be, into heaven, nirvana, whatever, or into a conscious rebirth. But as they lose momentum and energy, they begin to hallucinate. And so these are instructions to help them understand what's important and what to focus on. And this is a transition of the soul, not the human biological machine, not the human being. So it was recommended at this introductory meeting to have copies available of the American Book of the Dead, which I have. I also have copies of the Angel's Healing Journey, which is also written by E.J., which is more of a Christian angelic version of the American Book of the Dead. And copies of the Human Biological Machine. Well, since most of you are students enrolled in Golden Eagle School, and this is required reading for the school, we don't have any for sale today, but do know that these can be found through Gateway Books, and you can find them, online. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to let you know, we were up to 4 people at one time, nobody signed in, and now we're back down to 3. You've referred to the Institute. So,
Okay.
The Institute is the Institute operated by E.J. Gold, the Institute for the Development of a Harmonious Human Being, for those of you who wonder what the IDHHB stood for. And under that, he has several work areas, one of which is the Labyrinth Readers Society, which is providing training for those in transition using ABD and training for anyone who uses shamanic voyaging techniques to travel in that dimension. So that's the core of the class. That's who we are referring to with EJ. He's a powerful shaman in his own right and in his own style, and he is done a great service to humanity by providing materials. So I just kind of thought it might be worth clarifying for those online what we meant by the Institute.
And then in addition to that, we have Golden Eagle with us today, who has the Institute for Toltec Shamanic Arts, that given us here in Mount Shasta.
Oh yeah, clarify which institute.
Right. So basically we are down to the point of, I will send you, if you're interested in continuing, which I know the 4 of you are, but anyone else who contacts us, these materials that should have been available to you today, which is basically the student handout and the course description, and we will be going over that material in the class today. So you'll be getting information. You'll just get links to the information. Now, one thing that those of you who took the course on the Book of the Deads that was offered at Saline, no, it was All Souls Day. In there, you did actually receive a copy of How to Be with the Dying. So I'm going to give copies to you now, just so you should already have that in that other packet. And this is some of the information that no matter whether you decide to go through this course or not, whether you pick up an ABD, which is short for American Book of the Dead, in the future or not, this is a handout or a little brochure that we have on how to be with the dying. It just goes over some of the symptoms to be aware of when someone's in transition, some of the best ways to support them in that process. And that's really what the Book of the Dead readings are about, is helping someone in that physical transition as well as in their spiritual transition. And this is a suitable program to go with any religious affiliation. Once they have moved on, they have moved on, and this is simply allowing them to keep focused on that goal of moving on their pathway. So, yes.
When would it be appropriate to share a small story that might help people recognize the power of that?
Yeah, let's do that in the training space.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. The course description is lengthy, and we are going to be going over that in the training space today. A lot of the material that we're going to be working on is not some abstract other material. We actually read from the Book of the Dead, and we're going to be, sharing opportunities to read, not necessarily today, because learning how to read is part of this process, and how to read in a way that is clear and that we're making clear contact with those who are in transition. And so this is the important part of the group work, is that we have this opportunity to work together, and especially those of us who know each other, we will have, let's say for example, that someone can't make it to class either online or live, and they go through the material on their own, but some of the group exercises then are something that we can do in one-on-one group chats. So we're going to be needing to work together, because right now it's important that we get a feedback, that we get some sense that our delivery of the information is coming through clearly. And we do that with a live partner. And we can also do that with a mirror. So it's not as effective, but you want to be able to, whenever possible, connect with something that's connecting back with you. And obviously we don't have that when someone's actually passed away, or is not consciously with us any longer. We don't have that feedback. So we're learning to identify those subtle things that will help us be better receptive to working with someone who's in that condition. So, really quickly, I'm going to go over then the shortened course description, which is what I had given you in that packet last time. The professional labyrinth reader is an individual trained to guide another being in the labyrinth. The labyrinth reader does this by reading the instructions contained in the American Book of the Dead in the exact manner outlined in the book. These readings explain to the voyager what he or she is experiencing and give specific instruction for using those experiences to attain liberation or rebirth into the teachings. So you notice how my voice changed when I started to do the readings, and that was probably be considered fast when you're actually doing your reading. You want to really be present, and you want to sense that your words are actually being received. And so some of the consciousness training that we're going to work with is making that eye-to-eye contact. And we don't always do that in society. We're in a very, inward-focused world right now where people don't make eye contact. And you'll notice, especially in the dreaming, when you receive dreams where you make eye contact with someone, or like right now we're training some little kittens outside, and they'll be playing with whatever you're doing, but then they look up and they make the eye contact. And so that's going to be a really important skill that we learn to develop. So actually most of this will be covered as we go through this information, and we'll do that when we move into the next room. So let me just make sure I've gone through everything, because I tend to skip around. During this introduction to the Labyrinth Readers course, you will receive the student information, a copy of How to Be with the Dying, information about the American Book of the Dead, which we've discussed, recommendations about reading The Human Biological Machine as a Transformational Apparatus. I don't know if I actually said the whole title, But this helps us learn to make that distinction between this human biological machine, which we are traveling through life in, its own wants and needs, and that of the essential self, or the higher self, that's here to do something in particular. We are offering a 12-week course, which includes these consciousness exercises. It will include, when we get to the 4th week, we will actually go through the 49 readings. So that's part of the homework, is to learn to do a reading daily. And most of them only take 5 minutes or less. So you will be looking at creating a space wherever you're at. If you're just in a bedroom, if you have a 3-bedroom apartment, whatever it is, to create a space where you can do the readings. And so the student information will send you by email, and materials again will include the student handout and the course description. If you decide you want to go ahead with that, then you need to make the payments, and the information will be on that information I send, or it's a PayPal link actually directly to the Labyrinth Reader Society for the course material, but you'll be getting it through me, because right now I'm like kind of editing some of it. And then, and you've received the handout on how to be with the dying. And we're going to be transitioning now into the training space, where I'm actually going to be reading to you the information. And then you'll have a better sense of the quality and feel of the connections that we're trying to make, both with the deceased and during this training, and why the group information will be, or the group meetings will be so important. So before we do that transition, are there any questions?
4 people again,
Okay.
online, and none of them have signed in.
Well, I invited people to
Right.
make sure I'm not, saying anything incorrectly.
So if anybody's watching and has a YouTube account, please sign in and.
So we leave our notebooks in?
Yeah, leave your notebooks here. The thing about this is you're gonna start learning to work with attention. And there'll be an opportunity to take breaks and come in and write notes. But right now, you're just asked to be present. Okay? All right, we'll see you in the next chamber. Yeah, I let people in EJ's group and Coyote's group know that I was doing this, so there may be people who will just check it out. Wow, it's hot in here.
If you wanted realistic training.
I said what?
You wanted realistic training.
Right?
I think we need another light on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to crack the windows or something, because it's way too
I'll turn
hot in
this
here
down.
for me.
She does see dead people.
See if you can't crack the window behind your elephant there.
I did crack the window behind you.
Yeah, I've started doing most of my regular readings out of that now, just because it works for me that way. You know, I think it works for other people who have different denominations. Are we live or what?
You're live.
Okay. Hello. So it's interesting that the verbiage in the manual calls this a booklet. And this isn't even all of it. So some of it has to do with the way it's been paginated. Are we ready?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, well, you were walking in and out, so are you done doing that?
Yep.
Okay. So this portion, we'll talk about this space here in just a minute, but this is our training space, and or our sitting room. It has a multiple function, and the idea is that we want to dedicate the work that we do in a particular space. So we're going to be doing our training work in here, and we'll usually get our instructions before we come in here, but there will always be an opportunity to ask last minute, clarifications. And then we'll be doing a series of exercises in here. And we'll be working out with also with those who are online. So we'll have an opportunity where it won't just be the two of you working together all the time or with us. We'll be working with those online as well. So that'll give us some different opportunities to see. And if you think about it, if you're actually with a live person, that's going to happen very, very rarely, that you're going to actually be there unless that's part of your profession, to actually be there. Often we're just working with a photograph and a name and a candle, So it's important to be able to learn to know when you've made a connection with another being, whether they're in the same room or on the other side of the world. We're going to be talking about the format of the Labyrinth Readers course. And as we've spoken of, there's weekly meetings and group work, and we'll be talking about that as we go through the guidelines. There's going to be homework, which is some individual exercises. There will be some reading assignments with questions that need to be answered. So there's like a little questionnaire book, and when we get to week 4, then there will be twice daily readings. It says with a partner, but I believe that's referring to who you want to read for. So if you do have someone that has just passed in your life, that you have concerns about where they might be at in their process, you can choose to do that part of the exercise. This doesn't start until we get to the 4th week with that particular name. Often the Labyrinth Reader Society or other groups like the work I do will have a list of people that either need to be read for or are being read for, and so you can participate in that. And then there's the actually working 2-on-2 with another partner to do the readings, to get that feedback, to know that you're connecting and that the other person hasn't drifted off. So we'll talk about the exercises, and a lot of that is covered in that material. So let's get on to the Labyrinth Readers course information.
This is a good time for a question.
Yes.
When you mentioned someone who's recently passed, if it's someone who's passed like 6 months ago, is that still considered recent?
Yeah, if you don't feel that someone has already read for them, and even if they have, it's a good way to practice. Sometimes we need to build up the self-confidence to know that we're actually making contact and that we're actually doing a service for someone in transition. And so, it can be whoever, and realize too, for those of you who have different questions about religions and so forth, that, the principle is that the essence has the ability to accept or reject any information that's being offered on their behalf. And so in this particular case, if it's somebody that doesn't want you to be reading for them, then they don't have to accept that information, right? And we'll talk more about that as we go through the course.
Okay.
Right? So let's talk about the meeting spaces. Before we come to the meetings, we want to have already had lunch. We don't want to be worrying about snacks or anything like that while we're here, because we do want to hold that presence and stay in the space. So again, if you're working at home, whenever possible, try to create that space. You may have to watch the broadcast live potentially so that you could ask questions with a series of interruptions, and then potentially go back later and rewatch it to actually focus on the exercises. Or when you're ready to do the exercises, make sure you have that specified space. So the meeting space then is the space that we were just in. And that's where we talk about the questions, the homework, to give the instructions for what will be done in this space. Essentially we want to get here a little early so that we can greet, so that we can talk about anything extraneous to the course. But realize that what you're doing is going through some high level consciousness training. And so we don't want to lose that momentum through the meeting time or immediately after. So the idea is that when we're done, we close the space and then you'll leave. And you can then carry that information or that feeling or wherever you're at to the next space you go to. But that here we greet each other, we open the space, we do the exercises, we close the space, and then we end. So again, if you're working at home, you're going to want to think about creating those kind of spaces for yourself, which may or may not be possible. If you've got cats, if you've got children, husbands, whatever it is, do your best to isolate yourself while you're doing the actual exercises. We'll also talk about any group business. We'll have to work together a little bit to be able to work together as a group. Once we actually get started, the class will be closed, so it won't be like people are just tripping in and out. So we'll know who's in the class and develop relationships where we can meet and help each other with homework, either live or online. We'll begin by reviewing the last week's homework each time, handling any questions, and then previewing the work that we're going to be doing this time, and then preparing for the first exercise. The first exercise period is in the training space. So this is the training space. There'll be candles lit and incense before as part of the preparations. When the students come in and are seated, we'll begin by saying, this exercise period has begun. And at that point, you want to really be, trying your best to hold your attention, to hold your focus, and not let things from outside of that space pull you away. So in creating your space, this is why we recommend not having too much light, or anybody that's going to be walking through the room, that type of thing. After we do the first exercise period, then we'll take a break, and that will be the time to use the restroom, get a drink, and most importantly is to sit down and journal notes and things from experiences that you just had from the last exercise. And so we'll do that back in the meeting space. So after completing the first exercise, we leave the exercise space, and the students should sit down quietly and write out their impressions and ideas from performing the exercises. During this time, you can have coffee or tea, but we recommend that you do not offer food. The second exercise period will be handled the same. So at that point in the meeting room, we will give out any instructions for the next exercise, and we'll come in here to the training space. So any questions about that so far?
Is it beneficial to read the exercises before the class?
So I'm still getting clarification on that, but I believe that you will be given the material now. What your homework is then based off of what we were just working on. And in that, you're given an introduction to what the material is the next time. But in some ways, some of these types of exercises are experiential. And if you're given too much information ahead of time, then you're not really in the space. You're expecting things to happen or things to happen a certain way, or wait a minute, it said that in the material and now you're saying this. So again, the information for this room is to be present. And if we have too much of that ahead of time, then we're not present. So I don't know what I've done. I haven't got everything in the right order because I'm working from two different manuals here. So we talked about the meeting space and the training space. Now, opening last word. Okay, we went through all that. Meeting space. You see why I'm condensing this? It's like volumes of information. It's easy to get lost in it all. Okay, we'll also be working one of the exercises that we're going to be doing, and most of you of Golden Eagle students are already familiar with contact exercises. So the whole idea here is that we want to be making eye-to-eye contact, and basically there's a lot of exercises will be shown where we're placing our attention, let's say, on the candle, and we're seeing with our diffused vision around all of that. But as we're working with you online, it will be important for you not to be looking at the image on the screen, but at your camera. So placing your eyes, if you can, to set everything up so that your eyes are on the camera and that you're seeing what's on the screen with the diffused vision. Does that make sense? It's always going to be preferable when you can look directly into the eyes and face of another person. But for that to be effective for us working online, you want to be looking more at the camera for that situation. Let me get to the course description. So, a Labyrinth professional reader. A professional Labyrinth reader is an individual trained to guide another being in the labyrinth. The Labyrinth reader does this by reading the instructions contained in the American Book of the Dead in the exact manner outlined in the book. These readings explain to the voyager what he or she is experiencing and give specific instructions for using those experiences to attain liberation or rebirth into the teaching. So, the labyrinth is terminology that's used in the American Book of the Dead to describe that in-between state after death, before rebirth or transition. And so, in that way, we're guiding those who may be in that in-between space. And we're reading to a specific chamber that they may pass through. So, The Professional Labyrinth Readers course is a complete 12-week program of individual and group study designed to give you the knowledge, skills, and attitude required to perform the service of Labyrinth guidance. In particular, the objectives of this course are to give you the basic information and techniques required using the American Book of the Dead for the purpose of Labyrinth guidance. To give you certainty about the effectiveness of the teaching and your ability to serve as a professional Labyrinth reader. To give you the experience of doing a full Labyrinth reading for another being. To give you a structured program of study of the entire text of the American Book of the Dead. It is assumed that when you enroll in this training, that you are serious in your intentions and are willing to make regular, substantial, daily efforts in order to develop your skills as a professional Labyrinth reader. The specific requirements of the course are that you attend all 12 meetings on time, participate in all the group exercises. Yes, Mina's out. Do the Labyrinth readings for another being every day, if possible, at the same time of the day as described in the workbook until completion of the reading, and that you record the results of your readings in the Labyrinth readings record, which will accompany the course. To study the specific chapters of the American Book of the Dead and this booklet or manual each week before the next group meeting and complete the study questions for each lesson. And to do the individual exercises and reading exercises in each lesson before the next meeting. So, is there any questions about that? And I would recommend that you don't keep crossing them. Just stay over there so you can see their questions if they have any. So if anyone has any questions about the material that I just read, this is one of the things that's required to enroll in the class, is that you receive and understand the course description and basically agree to this. And realize that life happens, and so with technology now we have the ability to record these courses, and you can, if you do have to miss a course, you can watch it on your own time, get the exercises done, and we'll send you the, study questions, and then you'll be ready for the next class. So, just realize that we'll work our best with trying to keep everybody up to date on all of that. It is, in the past, there has been a certification program, in which case the Labyrinth Reader Society would recommend you as a Labyrinth reader because you have gone through the course training. In my day, we had to go through the training 4 times, and that's like the minimum to really absorb the information. I mean, you'll go through this once, and if you don't keep up with the information, it could be all new to you the next time you do it. So, because again, we're being placed in the care of the souls and their transition, it's really important to realize that this is not just a weekend workshop, that it is very specific training that's changing our consciousness in a way that we can better communicate with those who need our help. So, if there's no further questions, anything online?
No questions online.
Okay. So this is the meeting guidelines. And I'm just gonna go over them briefly, and know that this will be part of the packet, student packet information that you receive, so you can go over them again in detail. The group meetings for each of the 12 lessons in this course are designed to provide an optimal environment for you to learn the skills of a professional Labyrinth reader. In order for these meetings to be effective, it is necessary that you learn to work during the meeting time in a specific, disciplined manner. The most important aspects of these meetings is the group exercises, in which you work with other members of your group, drilling on basic Voyager communication and reader skills. Thus, the group meetings are designed so that most of your time is spent actually working with the group exercises rather than in discussion. There will be time for a certain amount of discussion at the beginning of the meetings when you review your homework with from the previous lessons. However, it is not appropriate to use class time for discussion of your personal life, problems, politics, social beliefs, etc. Your study time is precious, and in order to become a professional reader, you will need to learn how to concentrate on your efforts during the group meeting time toward the goal of developing the skills of a Labyrinth reader. Keep your attention concentrated on the meeting. Don't allow your attention to wander into speculation or personal fantasy. Pay attention to your posture. When you notice your body falling into an inattentive posture, quickly observe the posture and its effect on your concentration of attention, and then readjust your posture to a more attentive one. Learn to exercise discipline over your organic body habits of fidgeting, readjusting posture, etc. When you feel the urge to fidget, contain it, at least temporarily, and then, if necessary or appropriate, authorize the manifestation of that voluntary movement, slow and deliberately. Sudden movements distract attention from the meeting space, but they can also distract it from your work and attention with the others. Do not periodically leave or enter the meeting space to get a drink or go to the bathroom, walk around, etc. We can do that at break times. If you find it hard to express yourself in a group, make a special effort to do so. It's easier after the first few times, and by contributing your understanding to the group, you are often led to further questions and may discover that you do not understand ideas which, if understood, could open doorways to new dimension. The American Book of the Dead is the specific formulation of teachings. So look to the text for answers to your questions. Avoid attempting to cross-reference the chapters being studied with other ideas that you've heard of. Assume for the moment that this is all the information you have, and that the material, methods, and techniques in the book and in the course are being presented in an exact sequence. Direct your comments to the entire group. Don't engage in one-on-one dialogue, either on the side or within the meeting. Because the entire group is working together, think before you speak. Is my question or statement to the point, or is it just a speculation? Spend whatever time is necessary formulating your comments or questions with exactitude before speaking. If you find yourself habitually jumping in to speak, make it an exercise to wait 3 seconds, using this time to make sure that the comment or question is clearly formulated, and by being especially attentive to the meeting, that this is an appropriate time for your comment or question. When another member of the group is speaking, don't interrupt. As a member of the group, you are responsible for trying to understand what another member of the group may be saying during a group discussion. If something is said which you do not understand, ask the person to restate it, or ask how their statement relates to the discussion. Don't be satisfied with the first answer you hear to a question. Dig much deeper. A good question leads to deeper, more serious and subtle questions. So, is there any questions at this point about that material? This should give you a pretty good idea of the structure of the course, and at this point then, in a regular meeting, we would be taking a break, a good time to go to the restroom, get a drink, and write down any notes. So we're going to break now for that purpose, and we'll meet you back in the meeting space, and if you have other questions or want to make sure you take time to write down any notes that you have about what was just covered. Now realize you'll be getting a hard copy of this, so part of this is in the delivery that we're delivering to the higher consciousness. Okay, with that we'll break, and tech guy, do we want to just shut down or just leave it on that room in there while people are writing?
I'll just leave it on this room in here.
Okay.
That'll make post-processing a lot easier.
Okay. All right.
Scott Hicks is one of the people.
Oh, okay. Great.
He says, love and energy.
any of the information that you've heard so far, or the idea of these transitioning between spaces and how we're receiving the information.
This, to me, the only question I have is, kind of have a larger space that has like a little more space, and I don't know, register meetings and what they want to have.
Yeah.
Back and forth, that works.
Yeah, it works, and just, some of the instruction, you will receive everything that I have, which is the instruction on how to do these courses. Anyone can do them, you just need to follow the instructions. But, one of the main instructions to the group leader is the idea of, creating the spaces where the, meetings will happen. One of the primary functions of the group leader is to prepare and maintain the meeting space. The meetings will be most effective if you can provide the two distinct spaces. So the training space, on the other hand, is used only for the Labyrinth readings and for the group exercises, and it talks about the lighting and different things like that. But it's the idea of consciously setting aside a space, consecrating it, without a better word, for that purpose, for that time. So you know that we use our living room space for a lot of different things, but you also know that it shifts the feel of it, depending on the attention and cleaning, not just the physical cleaning, but, preparing the space with attention. So what's most important is in your mind, that you're going from one space to another, that you're now in a more relaxing where you can think and write and journal and, look some stuff up, especially if you're doing your study questions and things. But that when you go into the training space or at home, call it your temple space or altar space, whatever you want, it's a space that you know you can get into a good meditative state and that you can make a good connection. And if possible, I realize, you're in transition, hopefully you'll have a space where if you had to, you could walk your cats out, my cats tend to rip the door down and I walk them up, but, so it's whether are they being respectful of your space, like my cats will just kind of come and sit with me, or they terrorize the house and I have to use a squirt gun and lock them up, so, that's the point. That makes sense.
So you mentioned really briefly, concept of, incense. So would the incense just be like,
Right. Well, we're talking about two different things right now. We're talking about creating a space for the training, and we could also potentially be talking about creating the space for actually doing a reading and connecting. In which case, what we're calling the training space or a more meditative state is essentially the same thing. But the question is about incense. And when you get your manual, there is a reference in here that if you would like suggestions, the Labyrinth Reader Society can give you suggestions on those things. From what I've learned in my training in the past, the incense during an actual reading is more of an atmospheric, where it's the idea that your intentions are being carried with the smoke up. In the instructions for creating these spaces, though, EJ very specifically said to burn the incense beforehand. One, because if it is a group thing, you may have people who are allergic. So always keep that in mind, and that's why, a diffuser or, liquid incense or something might be another option. Sometimes people are hypoallergic to those things as well. So, but the idea in general of the incenses as a carrier when you're actually in invocation. But I believe in this particular case, we're talking more about cleansing the space, so saging it and all that would be appropriate. Yes.
One of the people who's online now is somebody named Sean Cohen.
Oh, I know Sean Cohen.
And he said he has no sound, everybody else has sound.
online. Thank you for being with us. And yeah, you may wanna go back and rewatch this once you get your tech figured out, because we're kind of wrapping it up now at this point. Just know that in the future, if you do wanna be part of the course, and there's family discounts, no, there's not actually, because I'm not making anything off of this. This is an active service, this is my active service in the world to do the Labyrinth readings. And many of you actually already participated a Book of the Dead workshop, in which case you paid me for my services. But the fee for this course is all going to the Labyrinth Readers Society. And you know, when I read this information, I can tell, you know, from a higher education point of view, that there's a lot of really good training in here. Many of us claim to be a psychic or have some types of abilities and stuff, but there's no training manual. So going through this training is going to help anybody who's working with trying to make those connections. And so, and it's laid out in a very concise way. And so I'm probably ad-libbing a little more than I would like to, and in the future, you know, we'll only in the question and answers we'll go off on some of those kind of things. But anyway, anyone online, if you do have any questions about what we've been talking about, how this might apply to you, just type them into the chat log there, and we'll try to address those. As far as our course today, which is an introduction to the Labyrinth Readers course, which will start in January, and be a weekly thing where we meet together on Sunday afternoons. So for today, we had scheduled the second part of the class would be to now have taken a break and to go back into our training space. Because of a few technological issues, we're not going to go there, but I'm going to give you this part of it as a homework assignment, because you should be able to access this information on YouTube. And if not, I'll send you links to the information. So this will come with your student information packet, and there'll be links on how to do this homework. But let me explain what it is. The second part of this was, the body of the presentation was to be about putting you in a state where you could sense and feel what it would be like to be a Voyager, to be the person going through transition, and to be confused, and not know where you're at, not know where you're going. Realize that some of us have, you know, some very good, clear religious instruction on understanding all of this. Some of us have no information on this, and depending on the circumstances of a person's death, whether it's traumatic, whether they have regrets, whether, you know, you have family that's grieving, saying please don't go, but you're really ready to check out. It's giving the one in transition a clear instruction so they can make decisions at that moment while they still have an intact consciousness. And so the first part of the instructions for the homework are to come to it with a attitude as if you have just died, you know, and just kind of put yourself in a nice, relaxed, meditational state, and, you know, imagine, wow, you know, this has just happened. Now, for those of you who took our course last month, Golden Eagle recited for us some of that type of imagery of what it might be like. So there's going to be a few different links. One of them is just an audio that is EJ's voice reciting that, going through that process. And so there'll be a link for that. And for those of you who have already gone through that class, that would suffice what you heard before, but you're welcome to listen to that one again. And
So that's the one that
Yeah, and it's, there's one of the tapes is called Bardo Dreams. And I have another game of a similar type of CD, audio. But, so that's gonna be more of an audio version of, just kinda get in a relaxed state and imagine yourself, going through this process. And then be sure to journal. I mean, this is a big part of it, is, you're going to start being more, attentive to your subtle energies and your subtle reactions and triggers and things. And you want to be capturing those, because this is training for your own process as well. It's training for all of the dark places that we might have to shift through. Yes?
As a question, would you ever do a whole series of readings for yourself?
That's a really good question. Let me, put that towards the Labyrinth Reader Society, because, I would say yes off the top of my head, but I'm just wondering if there's any special instruction for that. And it's interesting because there is a section in our manual about doing a solo course, so working on all of this stuff with self. So that might answer some of those questions, but, I will make a note to self.
I was gonna ask the same question.
Really?
For you?
Yeah.
You should.
But yeah, no, it's a good question. Readings for self, and, to ask somebody else to do a reading for you, would only disconnect you then from some of your own personal attachments to self. But reading for self.
You know, imagine if you're going through a period of illness.
Yeah.
And intense transitions, and even though you're not maybe in the process of dying, just that those transitions and feelings
Right.
Where you're stuck in the same level.
So this is the thing though, is how do you read for yourself and be receptive at the same time? So there's a cognizant thing, that could interfere with that. So listening to it, listening to EJ reading the readings is essentially the same thing, but you're getting it. And that's what you need to realize, is that you're getting it. It's gonna help you in this lifetime, it's gonna help you in your transition, and it's gonna help make you a better reader as you connect with other people.
So is there for sale at the Institute, EJ's Institute, and EJ's reading, so we go listen to it?
That's a really good question. No, there is all sorts of stuff that he's done. A lot of it's already online for free. You can get clear light readings on YouTube. But, let me get some clear links for you so that you're not just out there hitting this, yeah.
I've had a request online for Yvonne or Patricia, ask questions, can you speak up? I
Okay.
know you're looking at Bonnie, but if you could turn and look at the microphone right
Yeah,
here, that
okay,
might help.
thank you.
That last question was, what was for sale at EJ's Institute regarding, materials such as EJ's recording of reading the ABD? So that was the question you asked.
So let me just say at this point, for those of you who already know and love EJ and have been to the Institute and all of that, there is mega resources out there if and when you take this on as your cross to bear and your thing to do and all of that. While we're going through the course, you're gonna have enough to do to just focus on the course material. And, we need to talk at some point about the ashram. So, but I'm not gonna do that as part of this. For those of you online, if you, have access to Second Life, as a gaming tool, EJ has an ashram, called the Prosperity?
Prosperity Ashram.
Yeah. Anyway, and, there's, connections for that through Facebook and all too, but, if you want more information, we'll give you a link on that as well. But basically, there's readings going on in the ashram all the time. And so what I find is for people who aren't ready to delve into doing this work, and there's times even where I'm in between, taking one group through and another, and somebody dies and I feel like they need to be read for right away, then I'll put them on the reading list at the ashram. So that's done through, through the Facebook link, but probably also through the Labyrinth Readers Society. So, anyway, getting back to your homework. The third thing is, so the first thing is being in this attitude of having just passed. Second is to listen to the audio of Bardo Dreams or one of the other simulations of a near-death experience. And the third would be to watch the video and an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. And again, I'll send you links on all this.
Can you repeat that?
An occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Yeah, I think it's just part of a movie actually, but, from like the early sixties or something. It's a black and white, it's in relatively poor condition as far as I know. I thought we had the copies ready to go today, but, it was in 5 sections and I think we can get it in one because I've seen it in one. But the thing you wanna realize about this movie is that it's a dramatic artistic piece. You can tell that the directors, involved in the piece, and probably the original author or playwright, we're dealing with these concepts of existentialism, of our existence and what happens at that moment of death. And so this is part of what's portrayed in the movie. And so when you watch it with attention. Watch it as a work movie. Watch it as, with all of your attention placed on the material, and allow those deeper understandings to come through. Because I've seen it numerous times now, and every time I do, I get something a little different out of it,
I think it was weird to have the camera on.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely it's
It's been around.
for a while, so that's what I have for you today. I mean, we were gonna go back into the other space and actually do these meditations and watch the movie. And, at this point, I think that it would be best if you watch it in your own space. It's not required that you watch these things in order to take the course, but it is part of the introduction material. And, for those of you online, then you should be able to Google that. And I think that the clip that you need is only about 5 minutes long, of the occurrence long.
When you get the proper link, you can just email it.
Yeah, so that will all come out to you. So basically, the 4 of you that are already enrolling in the course, I will send you that information. Anyone online or anyone who watches this, in the next, month, just contact us. I'll send you this introduction information so that you can check it out. And then if you want to enroll, we're starting on the 11th of January. And we'll start at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, if that works for you too.
Yes.
I have the 2 Facebook groups.
Uh-huh.
One of them is the Prosperity Path Forum on Facebook, and the other one is the LRS Forum.
Okay, so LRS is Labyrinth Readers Society, and that, on Facebook is where you would wanna go if you know nothing and have no connections and no help for someone who is going through transition. Just, type in a message on the Labyrinth Readers Society and ask to have the name of your loved one put on the reading list, and then they will be taken through the readings.
I finally signed up in, EJ's site, Gorbog or whatever.
Gorbag?
Yeah, and there's Bardo Clan,
Oh, right.
so is
Yeah.
that part of it?
Well, that's not part of the Labyrinth Readers
That's,
Society.
I believe, a specific, class or weekly something that they do. They have activities every day, not necessarily 24/7,
Right.
but one of their regularly scheduled activities is Bardo Plan. And of course, the Bardos is another name for the Labyrinth, which is another name for the macro dimensions.
Right.
So they have way more stuff than
any one person can engage in.
So, is there any more questions, pertinent to the class? Otherwise, we're going to shut down now, and again, you wanna contact us at Golden Eagle, discourses at gmail.com. If you're seeing this on YouTube and you're interested in participating in the 12-week course starting in January. Otherwise, those who are enrolled will receive, your student packet hopefully in the next day or so. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're going offline. Thank you for being